Hello and welcome to another episode of the Candice and Elisa show. As usual, if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe. But today's episode is pop culture intersects with activism, apparently. Today we are speaking about Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's new song, WAP. So this has caused an internet stir. Some people calling it activism, other people calling it, inappropriate. And a fun fact is YouTube actually censored the original video, and the video I saw on YouTube seemed pretty out there. So if it is censored, I hate to see what is in the actual video. But I actually want to read a couple of the lyrics so that everyone can be on board if you haven't heard the song, and you can know what exactly we are discussing moving forward. So some of the lyrics include, there's some whores in his house, whores in his house. And it goes like that for a while. And then it goes on to say, while you are riding his D, you might as well ask for a car. So please go check the song out if you haven't, or at least read the lyrics. Because for me, I'm really struggling with this conversation. I'm struggling to see where the activism steps in. And Elisa, I really want your opinion on this because, as you know, I've got a couple of strong opinions on this subject matter, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I think to me this video reads as soft porn, basically. And somehow it's acceptable when a mainstream media artist is playing or singing this. However, we do have mass media lines. So for example, we're not broadcasting and streaming porn films on the internet. We're not showcasing dismembered bodies from Lebanon at the moment or from war zones at the moment. So there are lines that are followed in both broadcast and media in general. But the fact that this somehow makes it through the cracks and becomes acceptable is the real question for me, because who's the primary audience for this? Who's going to be consuming this material, and who is it going to be impacting most? So what do you think about this?
I am I'm slightly, I don't want to say outraged, because outrage, can be such a waste of an emotion. And I think so much of society spends its time in outrage, right? And I don't want to just fit into that mold. I think for me, I find it fascinating how people are so quick to jump on the defense train of something that is soft porn in every way, shape, or form. I don't care how you squint, how you look at it. It really is incredibly suggestive. And the lyrics, I mean, for me, there are a couple of issues wrong with these lyrics. One, it speaks to the fact that women are commodities and women can be purchased. And therefore, when a man reaches a certain status in society, he has the right, or he has the ability, even more importantly, to be able to, buy a woman, buy affection. If he buys her a car, pays her tuition. So I struggle to see which part of that is feminism. I've been reading these lyrics a lot, and I'm thinking, on this translation or lyric website, it says a pervading feeling of female empowerment and sexual liberation. And
well, completely, I feel like it is such a misguided attempt at taking ownership of your sexuality, because to me, when I look at that video, there's nothing about these women that I feel is empowering, or that I feel they are empowered, because basically what they've done is they've fed into this male culture to the nth degree, and all they're doing is showing me, oh my God, the patriarchy has won. It's like the most anti-feminist thing. And precisely the things that you were saying, it's like, if you pay for my tuition, you can basically do whatever you want with me. There's a line in there saying, I like pain. And I'm just going, this is really feeding into rape culture. I mean, the Me Too movement, out the window, flush the toilet, because basically, it's everything that the movement is against is suddenly being, put out there by a woman. So, no.
For me, it's like I've read these lyrics so many times, right? There's a lyric I actually just scrolled to, and it says, he got some money, then that's where I'm headed.
All right.
Keyword, just like his credit. And so for me, I'm like, okay. So again, we're feeding into the narrative that when a man has money and power, he is allowed to own you.
Do whatever you want.
And do whatever he wants. And for me, it's so sad, and it's so like infuriating in the sense that I'm thinking that, as you said, most of the people who are consuming this information, who are consuming this media, are teenagers to like early 20s probably. I mean, I'm 28, and you're in your early 30s, and so our demographic kind of knows how to separate ourselves from these kind of lyrics. However, what I think to myself is, this kid, 16, let's say, is watching this music video and he's thinking to himself, oh, so when I make money, I can own her. Not I can respect her, not I can love her, not I can, earn her trust, earn her loyalty, respect, consent, but I can own her, because it even says, it alludes to the fact that, just keep coming for me. Let's role play. I'll pretend I don't want to. And so it's like, where do we draw the line between when a woman says no and actually means it, to a point where it's like, oh, she's just playing hard to get? I heard Cardi B say this, and I want to just bring it back to a small point about, why are we discussing this? Why is this an important issue to tackle? In my opinion, is the media is an incredibly powerful tool at conditioning society. What we see in the media, as you said, there's a certain reason that we don't see porn on TV, or we don't see, dismembered bodies on TV, because we are not, we don't want society to conform to that narrative that that's what's happening in reality and that's what life is. And so for me, it's like, when you have a video like this that makes it to mainstream media, as you said, and it is celebrated, it not only makes it, but it's celebrated. This is like propaganda on steroids, because propaganda is such a powerful tool used by dictators to, adapt the minds of the people that are watching. And so to me, I'm like, if I was a mother and I see my child watching and singing along to these lyrics, like, it's mind-blowing. It's not empowering. Like, he's thinking to himself, if I get a Bentley, I can own her. And I'm just like, Rosa Parks, are you listening? This is what you fought for?
She'd probably just abandon the movement. If you could go back and tell her where it's ending up, she'd be like, I'm out. Sorry, guys.
You're right. It's really infuriating to me, because I think not only does it shine a bad light on women overall, like across the spectrum, Black, white, Indian, Muslim, whatever, it shines a terrible light on Black women, Black bodies, because it's also saying that the very thing, what is the biggest argument about racial culture? What is the biggest argument when we go back into colonization? It was the sexualization of Black bodies, the monetization of Black bodies. And now we're coming, you fast forward and we're at this place where it's like, we are selling Black bodies, and we are selling a narrative that, oh, look at me, sexualize me, like I want to be sexualized, as long as you have the monetary power to do so. So no, not if you're broke. No, not if. So it means that any person with enough money, there's a price tag over my head, right? There's like a little money sign here that says, only people of a net worth of $10 million apply.
But don't sell yourself short.
I know, and that's a discount price.
No, I mean, but and interestingly, it swings both ways, because this is not just detrimental in my mind to women. It's also putting men in a really weird position where their whole self-worth and ability to have a partner boils down to their ability to get money, whatever the cost. Doesn't matter how you get it, just get it, and then you'll be able to. And so I really feel like this mixed messaging is really putting us both like on the spot in a really awful way, right? Because on one level for us, it's basically, if you don't have big boobs and big butts, well, you're going to be not really very interesting. And if you don't have a huge amount of money as a man, doesn't matter how you got it, you're not going to get the ladies. And if you don't get that from each other, basically your life is a failure, right? Ugh. Painful to listen to.
do you know what gets me about all of this? It's almost like I wouldn't even have paid attention to it if it wasn't labeled activism. Like, I don't understand which part of this is empowering or being an activist. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like we mentioned, in Zimbabwe, my neighbor, South Africa's neighbor, people are on the verge of a political war. Lebanon, political war. Belarus, political war. In Sudan, women have just, a bill has just been passed that's only been running for 4 months, that it is illegal for females to go under female genital mutilation. And so I think to myself, I'm like, you wanting to get onto Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and defend this, but when there are real issues at hand, you don't want to lend your voice. It's not popular to lend your voice.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, there's such a huge, like, it's just such a disconnect as to, like, I am all for body positivity. I am all for, you know, feeling good in your body, not being told what is, you know, culturally appropriate, or, you know, but I'm also for boundaries. I'm also for, I don't want to see Rihanna naked on my Instagram as much as I don't want to see Liza naked on my Instagram. You know, it is not body positivity for Liza to be twerking on my Instagram, you know. And so for me, these misguided notions of, oh, if I'm naked, I'm doing this so that I can be celebrated and I can break the stereotype. I'm like, this is like very warped, because it's one thing to say I'm fighting a system that was created by patriarchy, right? Because that's usually the argument. I'm fighting patriarchy by using my body. Are you fighting it, or are you like accelerating the fact that patriarchy is there and you are not fighting it by showing? If men are like, you know what, it's a win for us to see naked women on the internet, and you become a naked woman on the internet, is that really a win? Like, I'm going to be naked, but on my own terms, because I'm going to put a little caption on here that says body positivity. Girl,
on my terms. But
and
is it really,
like,
really, right? But whose terms are you actually feeding into? And that's the complication. It's, you know, it's not at all your own terms. If, you know, you have to, you can't watch this video just the visuals. You have to pair it with the message, which is the lyrics, and that contextualizes everything. Because I think that video could be interpreted in many ways if you took away those lyrics. But when you put those in, it's very clear what it's saying. And again, I mean, yeah, we're going around in circles here, but it's really just, it's just appalling to me that this messaging is what's being put out there, you know?
It's, you know what, I just I just think to myself, like, you know, you can't help but laugh at one point, because you just kind of think to yourself that, okay, these are the issues at hand. You know, Breonna Taylor's killers are still on the loose, but you know what, let's go defend a multi-million-dollar earning artist who is putting out soft porn and who is saying that she's taking ownership of Black bodies, which in no way represents me as a Black woman. I don't feel represented. But let's not pay attention to the fact that Kamala Harris was just elected as VP to Joe Biden. And so she would be the first Black female VP, right? And it's like, there are all these women who are trying to forward real causes, real movements, real messages that are going to impact the global scale of the world. But what we're fighting for seems, it's almost like, you know, I read a quote once, and it's either I read it or I listened to it on The Real Dictators, which is a podcast everyone must listen to. It's so good. But it said something along the lines of, if you want to destabilize people, shift their focus. So if you want to destabilize the masses, shift their focus to irrelevant things. So keep them busy with the irrelevant, you know, conversations. And I can't help but feel like this is exactly it, right? Like, everyone's shifting focus, like, from the important things. We just had Black Lives Matter protests. Zimbabwe was just in the news. Lebanon is still in the news. And just because it's not being covered widely does not mean people are still not affected.
Well, but that's never going to break the internet, right? That's never going to wake up with 26 million views in the first day of launching. Because also, there's the whole layer of compassion fatigue. You know, we're being bombarded constantly with all of these stories and all of these problems, right? And then on top of it all, pair it all with a cherry on the sundae, we're all going through a pandemic, right? And it's so many layers. So people can't go around attaching to every single thing, but at the same time, the fact that they choose to attach to this, I mean, we really need to bring on a sociologist.
Okay, I want to play a little devil's advocate and ask you, do you feel that it's just perhaps that we are prudes, that, you know, we are prudish in nature, and therefore we cannot accept that this is where society's headed.
You know, I don't think that saying that I don't want my body and my persona to have a price tag on it, I don't think that that's being a prude, right? Because I take much greater issue with the lyrics than the visual, even though the visuals themselves I don't agree with. But I just feel like those lyrics, it's rape culture 101, basically everything that the Me Too movement has fought against. And it's just creating, you know, generations of people that are coming out with all of this completely misguided messaging, not enough education in schools and support to say, guys, take this with a grain of salt. Not enough of that. A lot of parents who won't even be aware that this thing's come up, probably because they've got, you know, a pandemic and lives to live and whatever. And suddenly we're leaving so many children to learn stuff through the internet. I think that's a massive problem. I don't think that's prudish. You know, if you want to see a really empowered woman wearing a really low cut dress, half naked, okay. But if she feels phenomenal doing that, go for it. Okay, but don't pair it with this messaging that's very destructive to men and women. You know, it's not just one side, to both sides here. And tell me that it's because I'm a prude. I disagree. I don't think so. I mean, what do you think?
No, I think, you know, obviously throughout this conversation we've been on the same page. For me, it's really, I think I worry for the generation that's coming. I think I worry for the TikTok generation.
Old lady here.
Careful. I know, I mean, in a few days I'm 29, so I'm pretty much across the borders of attractiveness, apparently. You know, I'm a woman, I'm falling. I'm a woman, I'm falling off the calendar. You know, all women have an expiry date. Like, honestly, but no, but I do worry. I worry about, you know, the fact that I log onto Instagram, and OnlyFans is something that is prevalent amongst kids. And I mean, I mentor young women, and I've worked with a lot of young women, so I follow a lot of, you know, kids in their 18, I don't want to call them kids because I don't want to be condescending, but I mentor a lot of people between the ages of 18 to 25. And I'm 29, well, almost 29 now. And when I look back on the person I was at 21, I thought I had it all. I was like, I know everything. I am pretty much as mature as it's going to get. I am, you know, I was pretty convinced that I was a solid human being and I could make very solid decisions. But looking back, I'm like, what the hell? You know, I was in a relationship with a narcissistic, like 35-year-old man. I'm like, what the hell was going? And I felt so mature, right? And it was so misguided. And now, so I'm looking at these young people, or this group of people, and OnlyFans is becoming a trend where it's like young women are allowed to sell body parts on OnlyFans, and, you know, people are rapping about OnlyFans, and this sexuality movement, like women should take ownership of their sexuality at 18 when you barely know yourself. And so when you put a monetary tag on your sexuality at such a young age, you start having a warped sense of who you are, because your value gets placed on, if I look this way, if I sell this, then I am enough. And that's not how life works. You know, you make these decisions when you're young that you don't think will ever catch up with you, but they catch up with you. And so I just worry. I genuinely, just to my core, I'm just so worried about the generation coming up, having to see this messaging, being told that having this kind of messaging celebrated drives me insane. You can't celebrate this. Fine, you can call it entertainment, you can call it creative license, all of that I will stand for. You cannot call it empowerment, because that is one thing it is not. So I don't know, that's my that's my final point.
I know, and this is definitely one of those topics that we could dissect for hours, possibly days. We're gonna have to continue to dissect these layers and these topics in further episodes, because I'm sure that they all tie together with society and the topics that we discuss. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for tuning in today, and we look forward to joining you next week.